Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith, seeking God and growing through the quiet stirrings of midlife.
And to that question, we all find ourselves asking, what now, Lord?
Through honest conversations, shared stories, and practical Catholic wisdom, we explore how God refines us in changing seasons.
Strengthening our minds in truth, steadying our hearts in faith, and deepening our spirits in Christ.
Whether you're navigating a transition, discerning what's next, or simply longing to grow deeper,
you don't have to do it alone.
This is a place where we grow together, learning to trust God more deeply and to step into who He is calling us to be in this season.
Let's begin.
Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Shelley, and we are so glad to all of you listeners for being here today. You know, with Father's Day just around the corner, we wanted to do something a little different and very special.
So today we're welcoming a guest we've wanted to have on the podcast for a long time, our dad, Arthur. If you're listening to us for a while, you've probably heard us mention our parents many times.
Yes, you've heard stories about our family, the lessons we've learned growing up, and maybe even caught a few sayings that have kind of become a part of who we are. And you know, Lisa, if we're being honest, many of those lessons and quite a few of the sayings can be traced directly back to Dad.
So today you get to meet him finally for yourself. Dad has been a husband, a father, grandfather, provider, problem solver, storyteller, and source of wisdom for our family for more than 50 years.
So listeners, we hope you'll hear something that reminds you of your own father, or maybe your husband, grandfather, or another man who's made a difference in your life. So please grab a cup of coffee, tea, settle in, and join us as we celebrate Father's Day with our dad, Arthur Henley.
Dad, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I don't normally get to attend these kind of televised podcasts.
You're right. Mom has been on the podcast, but this is finally your turn to be here.
Yes.
Well, I think y'all did one at the ranch about 15 years ago when I was on the tractor, but I'm not sure. So if you've got a library somewhere, you can go back and check it out.
That video does still exist on our YouTube channel. Yeah, it does. That was longer than, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Yeah. All right, Dad. I know this is almost a trick question, but without taking the entire time of the podcast, how would you introduce yourself to someone that you've never met before? Tell us something about yourself.
Well, I think that I may have told y'all, and y'all may have even been over a couple of times, that your mother and I, about a year and a half ago, moved into an old folks home. And as a result of that, there's about 220 people here. And so we're constantly introducing ourselves. People try to get us to wear name tags, but nobody wants to wear those stupid name tags. So I've always remembered names by association. So when I introduce myself and your mother, I always try to associate something with it that people will remember. So what I'll tell you is that here at the old folks home, I'm known as King Arthur, and your mother is known as Marilyn Monroe. And you won't believe it, but even today, people still refer to us as King Arthur and Marilyn Monroe. And just the other day, Martha, one of the ladies that lives here, made a point of making sure that I was at dinner, and she brought me my crown. I didn't know what the burger was on it for, but it did say King. So anyway, you asked me how I introduce myself to total strangers. That kind of sums
That's
it up.
it.
We do get a little turnover here.
That's great. Okay, another one. If you have 9 grandchildren, if they had to describe you in 3 words, what do you think those 3 words would be?
I think I can do it in 4.
Okay.
Oh, no, not again. Because you know that I can't visit with them without dropping some pearls of wisdom now and then. And I think
stories.
some of them, because they're so old, they're all getting college age and working, and we only have two left in high school. And they've kind of had the talk many, many times.
For our listeners, the talk is anything that they ask him that he is going to expound upon. So it can range from anything from tell me about where you grew up to how did you meet our grandmother to what do you think I should do with the rest of my life?
Yeah, don't ask that question if you don't want to sit and listen.
Well, Shelley's tried to do oral interviews with me several times, and she'll ask a question, and then I'll talk for 45 minutes. Her eyes are then glazed over, and we ended up with she really has a tape of me talking for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is the object, Dad. That is the object.
Of an oral history. That's true.
So, Dad, when you are meeting people and you're telling them about yourself beyond your name, what are some of the things that people are surprised to know about you?
To be honest with you, having moved into this location, I really don't talk a lot about myself, because what I've learned in life is that people like to talk more than they like to listen. And as a result of that, I know you girls are not going to believe this because y'all have grown up with me, but I've tried to ask questions and then just pause and let them talk. And that way I get to learn a lot about them. And to me, that's more important than them learning about me, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and that's a valuable insight. However, it doesn't work well for this podcast because that's our job, is to ask questions and you talk versus you ask questions and listen.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of background for the benefit of the listeners. I was born in Nash, Texas, which is a small town just outside of Texarkana up in northeast Texas. I was born at home. The house that we lived in at that time was a house up on blocks. It had no running water, no indoor plumbing, but it did have electricity. Now, don't be concerned. That meant we had lights and those kinds of things. There was no air conditioning or anything like that. My mother said it was the poorest time of their marriage. So I have the distinction not only of being the middle child of 5 children, but I have the distinction of being told that we were the poorest ever when I was born. And since then, it's all been uphill. So what can I say? But we moved to Houston when I was 4. We ended up on the north side, and we lived there until I married your mother. And actually, they lived there until my dad died. So I grew up in a neighborhood where there were lots of other children, boys particularly, and it was a wonderful time in life. We attended elementary, junior high, and high school together. So it was fantastic. And then I like to tell people, I do like to tell this, that in junior high, I met the love of my life. I didn't know it at the time, but I was to find out later. And she was in the 9th grade, she was smart, unlike some people. And she was the vice president of the National Junior Honor Society at our school. And she was also the monitor for the study hall. And I'm not going to tell you what all went on in that study hall, but I did ask her out to the 9th grade prom, and she turned me down. So we ended up going to high school together, and the senior year of high school, things, I guess, changed a little bit. And we did begin dating, and it went very well from there. I was not well endowed with a lot of money. I didn't get any scholarships. Student loans weren't the big thing then. So I didn't have the option to go away for school. I went to the University of Houston, and that was a godsend for me because it turned out to be an excellent university for me to attend. I commuted from home. Your mother went to a school in Huntsville, Texas, San Luis State. And after a semester, she decided that she missed her mommy and daddy, so she moved back to Houston.
She missed mom and dad. I thought she missed you. We know this.
and commuted with me to the University of Houston on that. So that's kind of a little bit of background. I was a co-op student. Your mother, ultimately, when we got married, we were 19 at the time. She quit school and took a full-time job at a bank, and she was very popular at the bank, did a great job. I continued to go to work every other semester. So is the good Lord trying to tell us something right now? I hear the lightning, thunder in the background as well. We're having a lot of rain and thunder here, I guess y'all know. But at any rate, I ended up going to work for the phone company for 20 years. Then I thought it was smart, went into this for myself, got rid of all the accumulated personal wealth that your mother and I had at the time, and she panicked, needless to say. And so after that, I went through a series of jobs, and some of them were companies that we did finally start and were successful in. And then I bookended those many years with a company that your brother and I, it was his idea, that we started in 20 years ago, and it's been extremely successful. And that's why we could do these kinds of things and be so happy. Do you want me to get off in the religious aspects for just a moment about some of it?
Nope, okay. We're going to go back to asking questions, Dad.
Okay, I'm giving you a little bit of background on myself. From the poor boy to a well-to-do guy. Go ahead.
Without reading to us what we know you have prepared.
You're not supposed to say that. That's just my thoughts, getting them organized.
Just briefly, what do you remember about becoming a father for the first time?
Well, you were there.
Yes, but I don't remember.
Firstborn. As a young couple, at the time we'd been married about 4 years, we really didn't know anything about having children. All we knew was that we grew up as a child and we had siblings.
All those years, you've given us lessons. So this should be a quick one.
This is a test. You ready?
Yep. What is one piece of advice that you have repeated so often to your children and grandchildren that we can practically say it with you?
It's a test.
There's so many of them.
I know. That's why it's
the one that I started out with was one that I learned at Lyle when I was in a 3.5-month course with a bunch of other college guys that were, and it was illegitimate non corporandum. And I don't know if that's the one you're referring to or not.
No, that's the one you give the grandparents and the grandkids. But you could say what does that mean? It's not real Latin.
Illegitimacy could be an illegitimate child.
Just tell them what the
phrase. I really don't know what it means, but it means don't let them get you down.
Okay, say it again.
Don't let the illegitimate children get you down. And you can put the B word in there if you prefer. We did it.
Yes, the grandkids all know that one. Shelley and I were thinking more our you didn't tell us that.
You did not tell us that when we were young.
Oh, when you were young, what did I tell you? Help me remember.
Really?
Yeah.
On the count of 3, Lisa?
Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Life's not fair. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought y'all knew that one.
Yeah, because you taught it to us every third day of the week.
Yeah. Life's not fair.
Well,
if we came to you and said anything, the answer was always, life's not fair. Well, that's suck it up. Life's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, I learned that lesson really young. Go ahead.
We did too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to know something. Here's a question, Dad. What is something that your dad taught you that stayed with you throughout your life?
That's interesting that you asked, because I have to think about it in the context of a different time. My dad, he dropped out of school in 3rd or 4th grade, and he was from a very modest, I'll say, background. And he was not a guy that communicated a lot. So I learned most of my lessons from my dad by being around him and observing. My dad was he was not a strong disciplinarian. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had his bright red line, and we as children knew that, when you didn't cross that bright red line, you didn't want to. And I only crossed it a couple of times, and it resulted in one single swat. Um, but I think the main thing that I learned from my dad was that, and I'm going to say it referring back to what you said earlier, life's not fair. Life is what it is. God put you here, what I mean, in a circumstance, and you are challenged to make the best of that circumstance and to become the person that you need to become. And it's only when people get their heads locked into, what they've got to be or what they should be or something else that they run into trouble. And if you kind of just keep an eye on which doors God opens for you, then you find that life is much easier than if you're constantly searching for that door that you want, that you think God should give you. And I think that's one lesson that I learned early on was that I never thought I was very smart. I never thought I was very handsome. I never thought I had the greatest personality. I just was relaxed about life. I just didn't worry a lot about life. And, God opened a lot of doors for me in my life. The first door that he opened that I really, really appreciated was your mother. Okay. And, I always say she's the love of my life. And I'll say it today that after over 60 years that we've known each other, been married for 59 years, she's still the love of my life. Okay. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And I'm not going to tell you that everything's been great. But you ready for one more truism?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one comes from the Lord's Prayer. And you probably both know what I'm going to say.
Yes.
And that is, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And so if you want to be forgiven, if you want to be understood, then you in turn have to learn to forgive others and understand them. None of us are perfect. And so I think that that's helped your mother and I many times along the way. We're probably, okay, you ready for this? You can edit it out, obviously. When we walk around the old folks' home, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
We're constantly holding hands.
Yes, y'all do.
Yes.
Everybody talks about it. Oh, I can't believe, look at y'all are always holding hands. That's so sweet. I wish my husband had held my hand. And we don't even think about it. It's so natural at this stage of the game. And part of it is that we want to make sure that neither one of us trips and falls down, but we don't tell the other people that.
Y'all did that on the last big family trip we took to Sicily, and the grandkids all commented on it, that y'all held hands everywhere.
Yeah, and I guess my thoughts are, why is that so unusual for a married couple to still enjoy each other's company and still enjoy the touch of two hands together?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I feel like he kind of answered a question of what's the secret to a good marriage, because everything y'all have lived for us, I think, has been that answer. Y'all have been excellent examples to us how to last for 60 years.
Well, I think that if you read the New Testament and you study, the New Testament, you understand that it is a testament of love, and it's a testament of reconciliation, and is a testament of forgiveness. And those things are things that we each, as married couples, or as family members, or as members of our society, need to remember. Those lessons can be learned by anyone. It's just you just got to take the time to read it and understand it.
And to implement it in your life, right?
Yeah.
To give it priority.
Well, I was going to ask him, what lesson do you think every child needs to learn? We've talked a lot about us as adults and in your marriage, but what about a lesson a child needs to learn?
I think most of y'all know the most important lesson that a child can learn is to think for themselves. And that is to learn, I mean, to observe and to learn. So many times, everyone is telling the child how to think, how to act, what to do. And the child is, they generally kind of want to respond to that. And a lot of times we set expectations for the child. We're judgmental about what the child does. You know what I mean? We're constantly trying to tell little Johnny how he shouldn't do that. And at the same time, we'll utter a breath of, oh, little Johnny or little Susie, you're so smart, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, in my opinion, the thing about raising a child is to give them the space, um, teach them not to listen to everything that you say as, excuse the expression, as the gospel, but to observe life, learn to listen in life, learn to think for yourself. And most importantly, I guess, is just to develop a self-confidence and a self-love. You know, I always tell people that how can you love someone else if you cannot learn to love yourself? You know what I mean? And how can you develop self-confidence if you're always worried about how someone else is going to judge you? And so I think the Bible, this place says, judge not, lest ye be judged. And there's a comment, that he who is without sin cast the first stone. And I think those are important. They're important lessons that are in the Bible. And if anything, we should be trying to make sure that our children learn those lessons and understand them. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, it really does. And then that kind of leads into another one I had, Dad, which was, when you were raising us, what were the most important values that you wanted to pass on to us?
Well, I know the Bible says love your mother and father, and so I would tell you that love of family is incredibly important. Like I say, if I had to kind of put it in order, I would argue whether you love God or you love yourself first. Those two things have to happen together. I don't know how you can love God if you don't love yourself, because He created you. He created this world that we're in. And if you can wake up in the morning, and I don't care where you are or what your circumstance, and you can look at this world and you can not be absolutely amazed at the creation that was given to us. And then you think about the way God created people, and He did not create people to be the same. And if you go into DNA and all that, then you understand how all that comes about. And if you go into the circumstances to which we're all born, the environment that we're raised in, you understand how that goes about. And, I'm sitting here looking at you two girls on the screen right now. And, to me, you do not look alike at all. One of you's got brown hair and brown eyes, and the other's got lighter hair and blue eyes, you know what I mean? And you both came from the same, sperm and ovum, and you both came from the same woman and man. But God didn't make you the same as each other, nor did He make you the same as your parents. He created us to experience life, to live life, and to love life in our own way. And some people, you can argue they just get lost in the weeds, trying to be something that maybe God didn't create them to be.
So I was giving Lisa a chance to ask a question. So I didn't want to hog it all.
No, go for it.
Oh, wow. Okay, let the record show that she just deferred to the older sister for the first time.
I'm editing that out.
No,
I hope you're going to edit out Indy barking in the background, too.
Sure. Okay. A little bit about your legacy, Dad. Looking back, what do you hope your grandchildren remember the most about you?
That's a tough one. I hope that they remember the experiences we shared, and I have to think about that. I'm going to use an expression I've heard before. I always wanted to have a ranch, to own property, because we lived in a suburban house that was on a probably less than a quarter acre, and it was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath house, probably less than, I don't know, 800, 900 square feet, with an attic fan, no air conditioning, in Houston, Texas. Think about that. I couldn't live that way. I could not, I swear. But, I bought that ranch back in 1999, and we increased the size of it. I think Alex refers to it as ranch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or something, because of the number of parcels that we put together for that ranch. But we bought that ranch the same year that the first grandchild was born. And those grandchildren, all 9 of them, grew up with that ranch, and they grew up with all the family gathering at that ranch. And I don't mean just our immediate family. I mean my siblings, your mother's siblings, aunts, uncles. I mean, we had a great time. It's some of my favorite pictures. Y'all talk about holding hands again, or some of the pictures where I'm walking with any one of the grandchildren. I've probably got pictures of all of them. I have pictures of the grandchildren asleep on my chest with me asleep too. And I have pictures of the grandchildren walking through the pasture holding hands. And that has stuck with me my entire life. And I'm praying that my grandchildren can all remember those circumstances and situations and joys when they get to be my age. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's the way I think about it. And I'm so thankful for photography, and because I have thousands and thousands of pictures of all of that.
The kids definitely.
So when I get lonely, I can sit there. I have them all digitized. I can sit and put them on the screen and reminisce.
The kids definitely have a lot of memories. They very much think of you and the ranch kind of together, and they have so many memories of growing up out there and doing things that they don't get to do as suburban kids, and go out there and feed deer and ride on the tractor with you, or all those kinds of things over the years. So definitely have a lot of memories and legacy for that. And I think
they all loved riding the ATV with me, didn't they?
The ATV, yeah. I also was going to say, you were talking earlier about creation and God and all that, and I think that having the ranch also gave the kids a new outlook on creation, because they got to see things and experience things out there that you don't necessarily notice in your everyday life growing up in a suburb of Houston, but going out there and getting to see the sunrise and the sunset and cows, baby cows, and all the things that they got to do over the years. Chasing armadillos in the pasture. It just opens their eyes to a wider world.
And it is easier to appreciate God's creation when you're sitting on a hillside like that, looking out over a beautiful pastoral setting, with the rising sun or the setting sun and the animals out, and all the variety of animals that we had out there or still have out there. And I appreciate that it's much easier than growing up in an inner city or in a backwater area. But the truth is that I still see the world as a beautiful place. And, I'm so thankful, regardless of the ranch, but I'm thankful to be able to live here, among people that are my age, that have had a lot of different life experiences. And, I can listen to them and hear their stories, hear their experiences. And trust me, people do love to talk. Y'all wouldn't know that talking to me, would you?
You're talking to your daughters who have a podcast, so we know. We like to
Apple didn't fall far from the tree.
No, and I think that's it. Once your eyes are open to the beauty of the world of creation, you see it everywhere. And I think that's something that you and Mom, really instilled in us, is seeing not only the beauty of everything out there, but seeing it in the people that we encounter. They're really recognizing God and the uniqueness in which He created people and seeing that in them.
Yeah, and I think we all of us understand that God created a diversity of people for a reason, and it 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 just adds so much. It's like living life in black and white versus living life with color. If you watch the old black and white films, then you see the old Technicolor films, then you see the films that we have today. It's just so much more interesting and beautiful. And too many times we hear people that complain that someone's not like us. And the truth is, God wouldn't have put different people here if He didn't want us to experience different people, different ideas. And we have to learn how to live with that and cope with it and embrace it. And so that's kind of been, my philosophy in life is that I try not to let me say this very, very strongly. I absolutely don't want everybody to be like me. If they were all like me, I wouldn't be able to stand them.
Life would be pretty boring. That's what I was gonna say. It'd be pretty boring. What does the best way? I think you answered this. I was gonna say the best way to handle conflict, and I think you'd go back to the what you tell me is go back to the Our Father.
Well, I always go back to the Our Father, okay, and I always say that be careful about judging people if you're not equally careful about judging yourself, and that's back to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those trespass against us. But I also think that it's important when you're in conflict to make the distinction about whether it is war or it's just a moment of seeking understanding. Because sometimes when we get angry, we lash out and we let our emotions take control of our brain, of our soul. We let emotions take control of our soul. And it's very difficult when you get two people in conflict and they really just want to win the battle as opposed to coming to resolution. They really just want to be the person that, was right. And so you have to think anytime you get into a difficult situation, what's your purpose? Are you just going to lash out and be angry and dig the hole deeper and wonder why you're, getting so far in the ground? Or are you going to stop for a moment and say, what am I really trying to accomplish here? And what's the best way to do it? And you have to understand that other people are confronted with that same decision. And they don't always make a decision to resolve the issue. They get emotional and they just want to win. It brings back another issue that I talk about. You talk about being a father. One of the things that it took me a while, but I learned really well. And you remember I grew up in a different household than you three kids grew up in. But I think I've told y'all many times, never, ever discipline your children when you're angry.
You did
You know what I mean? Do not discipline your child when you're angry because sometimes the emotion takes over what you're trying to accomplish. Do you want to lash out and be angry and slap your child or spank your child? And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I mean, I think lashing out anytime is not good. But if you really want to resolve a situation, you have to give it time to get the emotion out of it, and then come back. And some people say, and then tell the child how to calculate. No, that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is go and talk to the child and maybe ask the child some questions. You know what I mean? Rather than you tell the child and the child saying, oh, here we go again. Papa's going to lecture me. You start just asking questions of the child and get them to think and get them to see, is this anger? Is this a best way to resolve this situation? Or is it best to engage in some thoughtful conversation and see if you can work to a conclusion that's satisfactory to both?
Sorry, the first thing that came to my mind when you started talking about the spanking was that, and doing it was when you sent us to our rooms to wait it out, we always knew that you were really angry.
Well, a lot of times you showed out in church. I hate to say it, but I always wanted to be respectful during Mass. I thought it was important to be respectful and follow the Mass. And so I have to remind myself that as a young child, they have to develop an understanding and appreciation and engage in the learning experience during Mass and appreciate the beauty of the Mass.
Yeah.
But I thought you were going to bring up about having to put your nose in the corner. I thought that's one you liked the best.
We've already shared that with our podcast audience.
Oh, yeah. Everybody who listens to us regularly knows how we were disciplined after Mass. So.
Sit or stand in the corner. Actually. Yes. All right. What is your favorite thing about being a grandfather?
Oh, I think I have to be careful because my immediate quip is that the most wonderful thing about grandchildren, you don't have to worry about spoiling them. And you don't have to worry about being responsible for how they turn out because that's the parent's responsibility. So you can really enjoy the grandchild any way you want to. You can give them the treat that they weren't supposed to have. You can take them to places they weren't supposed to go. You can let them do the things that mommy and daddy would really get upset about them doing. And then you have a big smile on your face and you give them back to their parents. And when the parents go, I don't understand why little Johnny's doing this or that, you say, he's your kid. You raised him.
Oh, and here I thought you were going to say it was...
Memories are the best thing about grandchildren. And you see that child just like you see your own children from birth, all the way up to adulthood. And you can reflect back on it. Right here, I have a little display. It's one of these video photo things. Mm-hmm. And I've got Alex and Daniel and Lori Beth and, all these kids. And, Cameron and Brenna as well. But like in one of them, Alex has got the mop and he's cleaning the kitchen floor for Nana, for your mother. You know what I mean? And, I'm sorry, it's the cutest thing in the world to see it. And you go back and you look at the kids when they were that age, and then you look at them as they get older. And the only disappointing thing is that once the kids get a certain age, their interests turn to other things. I don't know what's so fascinating about the opposite sex.
They all want to hurry to get married.
Huh? 19, remember that.
Yeah, I know. You know. Yeah. Well, we'll tell them they all need to call you more. And we're back. After a little technical difficulty, Shelley, to you. You had a question.
No, Dad, what I was going to say is that I thought for sure you would say it was the fact that all the grandchildren call you all the time for your advice. That they're always calling you.
It's funny that you say that. They do and they don't, if you know what I'm saying. Some of them in the past have called all the time. And what they don't realize is when they're calling like that, they become my favorites.
Oh, I think they know that.
I was going to say they do and they don't call for advice. Sometimes they want to complain and have a listening board, and it turns into, no, this is what you need to do to fix it. Don't complain, fix it.
No, he asks questions until they figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, that's what I think. But, I could slip up now and then.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. God didn't make us perfect.
And we definitely don't have all the answers.
No.
That's correct.
But I will tell our listeners, there is no better motivator in our family than calling you, Dad, and just saying something's off or I'm just not feeling it today. And by the end of the phone call, an hour and a half later, I'm like, let's go out and conquer the world. So thank you for that.
I'm happy to hear that. Sometimes I feel like that, I'm not as effective as I wish I were. How's that?
Maybe we should have a segment in the future on the podcast. Call our dad and let him solve your problems for you.
But just beware,
You know,
he's going to ask you a question and you're going to end up solving it yourself.
I did learn a long time ago, and I said it earlier in this podcast, that most of the time when people call you with a problem, what they're really wanting is they want a sounding board so they can kind of get it off their chest. They can talk about it. They're not looking for somebody to tell them what to do. They're really just looking for someone to listen and maybe ask a question or two and help them think through it for themselves. And sometimes it's just pure emotional release. They just want somebody to get it off their chest with. They don't want you talking back. They don't want to listen. They don't want your solutions to the problems of the world. They just want somebody to talk to that'll sit there and listen and nod their head occasionally. And sometimes
that's me.
I know you won't believe it, but I can do that.
That's exactly what I do to you, right?
I was about to say, same thing here. I'm pretty sure at least one or two of the grandchildren do that also.
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
I'm going to
Sometimes.
ask you what you believe describes a successful life. Like if you wish success for your grandchildren,
I will tell you,
what does it look like?
I can tell you what it looks like to me.
Okay.
My life. Because, no, I'm serious. I hate to say it that way, but there's no way that I should have ever had the experiences that I've had in my life. There's no way that I should have been able to, grow up in the neighborhood that I grew up in and be able to go out and do the things that I did in my life. There's no way that I should have been able to change jobs. I always tell people, I had a 20-year career at Southwestern Bell at the beginning of my career, and I had an 18-year career with Miraplex at the end of my career. And then in the middle, I changed jobs every year or two, whether I needed to or not. And, every time you sit and you think, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And then when you get to this stage of life, all of a sudden you look back and you say, God had a purpose. God opened these doors for you. You know what I mean? And you had to pick which door. Now, don't blame God if you picked the wrong door. And most importantly, don't blame God if you didn't pick one at all. You just walked on by, But for whatever reason, I picked a lot of doors in the middle of my career. And I must have learned a lot along the way. Is that a better way to say it? And I never look back. Some people say, I just wish if only I'd have done this or if only I'd done that. You know what I say, don't you? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't change one single thing about my life. That doesn't mean I lived it perfectly. It means that my fear would be that if I changed one thing, it would change everything. And God let me have this life, and I love it. I hate to say it, but right now I tell people here that we're in an old folks home, and a good friend of mine that he was one of the first people I met when we moved in, just passed here 2 days ago. Okay, and Marilyn and I went to see him 2 days before he passed, and he was, suffering. They had him on, anti-anxiety drugs, or whatever, but it hurt. It hurt to see him in that condition because 2 weeks before, he was very ambulatory and able to communicate and talk. We had a great time. And so it hurt, to see him in that condition. But one of the things that you learn is that is what happens to all of us. And sometimes it happens earlier. Sometimes it happens later. Sometimes it happens suddenly. Sometimes it drags on for a long time. And one of the things that I tell people that in my life, when God calls, when he knocks on my door and says it's time, I'm going to put a big smile on my face. I'm going to salute, click my heels together, and say, yes, sir, I'm coming. But always add, I'm not in a big rush.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So what do you hope for your grandkids for their life?
If I had to be honest, I hope that they have as good a life as your mother and I had. I hope that they find someone in their life that they can bond with and they can love. And it won't be, quote, the perfect person. If you go through life thinking that, what's the old adage, and they got married and lived happily ever after. God didn't make the world for us like that. He didn't make us for each other like that. God put us here so we can experience life. If he wanted us to always be happy, guess what? We would always be happy. If he wanted us to always suffer, guess what? He'd let us suffer. But the good thing about God is that he put it where we can experience both. And it's not that you experience one or the other that is so important. It's how you respond or react to that. You know what I mean? When times are good, we all love good times. I mean, I haven't met anyone yet that says, please, Lord, don't let me be happy. Please don't give me a good time. But the truth is if you didn't have some of those challenging times, if you didn't have some situations where, like in the book of Job, where you're sitting there going like, Lord, I've been faithful. I've done everything you've asked of me. What's going on? But, in the end, Job made the right decision. And I kind of feel like that's where we are. We can't blame God. Why did God let this child die? Why did God create this situation over here where many people suffered? And I hear that all the time. Why did God do that? Well, we're not omniscient. We don't understand. And God doesn't make us where we're omniscient, where we're all-knowing, that we understand everything. He makes us where we experience these things. And in experiencing these things, we recognize the difference. We recognize the difference between extreme joy, extreme pleasure, extreme boredom, extreme excitement. It's kind of like, you want to live in a black and white world, or do you want to live in a world that's a kaleidoscope of wonderful, beautiful, different colors? And for me, the answer is simple. I love this world that he's created for us. I love living with all these things that go on. And yes, there are things that go on in the world. I listen to people on TV and I'm going like, Lord, why did you put those people on TV? Why didn't you put some happy people on TV, that are not complaining about everything? And then I realized that it's so that we recognize just how lucky we are, how happy we are. And guess what? We have the ability to do what with that TV?
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Okay. and we don't want to do that in life. We don't want to turn it off. We just want to maybe change the channel now and then. If you're doing something and it's not fun, my thought is, stop doing it. Find something else.
I almost said that.
I know.
Maybe that's why I changed job 10 times between those two jobs at the front.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, this isn't it. Different job. What's funny about this is I really feel like, what you're saying to us is not news to us. Like, this is you. Like, the dad we've had for the last 50-something years. But I think it's so interesting for our listeners, for our audience, is that I think that they will be able to hear us. Like, what you're saying explains kind of Shelley and I's perspective on so many things, because what I hear you saying is a lot of what we sit here and our attitudes and our joy, our positivity, the way that we love God, the way that we love this world. And I hear a lot of that in what you're saying. So I'm hoping that our audience is like, oh my gosh, that's where they get it. Like, I get it now.
Well, don't let your mother hear that, because I give her all the credit.
Well, there's lots of things that we attribute to
mom.
mom.
My life.
Lots of things we attribute to mom too. So don't worry.
But in a lot of ways, the things that she says and the things that he says come from the same perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
Different delivery, same perspective.
very much alike.
We have had a wonderful life, and we are currently having a wonderful life, and we expect to have a wonderful life until the good Lord calls one of us or both of us home. So that's just, that's the way it is.
Okay, I have one. Shelley, unless you have another, I have a final question for Dad.
No, I'm going to let you go with a final question here.
Okay.
So.
If your grandchildren listen to this episode, which they all should, I'm going to say all 9 of them should be listening. But if they listen to this episode 20 years from now, so that will put them in a really middle-aged time period, what's one thing you want them to remember?
Well, I can tell you what I don't want them to remember.
Okay.
You remember what I said early on? Oh no, here we go again. I want them to look back and think fondly upon their experience with their grandmother and their grandfathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. I want them to recognize that it's a unique privilege and honor to be able to talk to someone that is maybe gone through life, and especially if that person has a very fond memory of that life, you know what I mean? Because if they can understand that they get to choose every morning when they wake up, they get to choose how they want to live, how they want to feel, how they want to love, or God forbid, how they want to hate. Okay? And my life has been about making those choices. And God has put me in a position where, in the vast majority of the case of my life, I've been able to choose love and to choose compassion and to choose to enjoy life. And every day, even right now, it's raining and storming outside, and all I think about is God's majesty, that He can do this. He can take the world and He can put a storm in it and shake our boat around, and the seas will toss us back and forth. And then shortly thereafter, if we survive all that, He puts us back on what? A smooth ocean with smooth sailing and a glorious sunrise, or maybe a glorious sunset. We have to choose what our reaction is going to be when we experience those things. And sometimes when you're in the middle of that storm, it's hard to sit there and go, oh, thank you, God, for showing me all this majesty, But the truth is that inevitably in our life, the storm does subside, and the seas do calm down, and the glorious sunset, appears, the sunrise appears, the sunset, it's just, you see that mystical island. When I was a kid, you read Treasure Island, and what have you, and you had these beautiful pictures from the South Pacific, and you'd sit there and go, oh, Lord, I wish I had been born in the South Pacific. Well, I might have thought that looking at it, but today, guess what? I'm glad I was born in Nash, Texas, to the parents I was born to, and was able to meet the people that I met in my life, especially your mother, and live life to the fullest. And I don't look back and regret a single thing. That's not to say I was perfect or anyone else was perfect. It's just to say, my goodness, didn't it come out well? And I hope that's what my grandchildren do when they get to be my age, is they look back and say, praise God, it was a wonderful life.
I got nothing off that, Lisa.
You got nothing from that?
No, I said I've got nothing to add. I don't know where to go after that. I was like, wow, okay, and scene. Don't.
That was
wow.
That was really beautiful. I think that's a great. I think that would be a great thing too for all of us if we make sure that we see God in all the moments, and we rejoice when things are going well, and we turn to Him when things aren't going well, and we remember to be grateful for the time that we have. I think that's really perfect.
We ought to thank God every day. Thank God every day. When he said, "Do this in remembrance of me," that's what we should do.
I love it. All right, Shelley. I said it was the last question. So are we leaving it with the last question, or do you have something else?
Absolutely. No, that's perfect.
You know, Shelley, he is a guest. He is our dad, but he's a guest. And we didn't prep him for the guest questions.
Oh, we didn't.
We forgot, Dad. So
You didn't stick to my script at all, did you?
we did not. Okay, so we ask every guest, and if you've listened to our podcast, Dad, you know this. So don't out yourself if you don't listen. We ask every guest 2 questions. One, we ask for you to tell us a sibling story, a short sibling story.
Sister story.
Well, we say a sister story, but we know you have sisters and a brother, so you can give sister or a brother story, sibling story. Just because Shelley and I are sisters, as you well know, and we talk a lot about family and being sisters. So you have a short sibling story that you would like to share.
Well, the first thing I want to do is tell you how difficult that would be for me, because I had 4 siblings.
Yes.
And I loved them all differently, and they all were in my life at different times. One of the sibling stories I can tell you is I was talking to my brother when I was probably he's 7 years older. So I was probably about 10 years old. He was probably about 17. And I asked him, what was infinity? And he explained to me that whatever was the end of this existed beyond this. And that kind of gets you thinking about life. And, what is life? Is it infinity? Do we have something that goes beyond where we are today? Now, I could tell the story about my immediately older sister, and I have a scar here from where she dropped the coffee can on me. I have a scar here from where she tried to chop on my finger with it. I could go, but she was probably my closest sister, in the sense of the things we did together. And the 2 younger sisters, Mother used to send them out for the switches, and they fought over who could get the best switch. And I love them dearly. And all of my siblings are gone, as you know, except the youngest one. And we're going to be spending a lot of time with them in July, because we're going on a cruise to Iceland for 3 weeks. So we're going to have a great time.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I was wondering which sibling story you're going to go with, the one where one of your sisters encouraged you to drop a lit match into an empty gasoline can.
That was my immediately older sister when
Yes.
tried to cut off my finger.
The fireworks.
We were playing under
The one who
my
dropped.
grandmother's porch.
Wasn't there a drops like a whole thing on your spleen, or you had lots of
that was
sibling
AK
issues.
with the trailer. I built the swing on the back of my dad's trailer, not realizing that levers, fulcrum, whatever. And she came up. She wanted to swing. Well, I was 4 years old. Okay, and she must have been like a year and a half old, or maybe I was getting close to 5. And she wanted to swing. So she gets on the little swing I created. And I said, okay, now let me back on. And she said, no, I want to swing. I want to swing. So I reached up and grabbed the bumper, and I was going to do a Tarzan swing on it. And when I did, it was enough weight that the trailer came down. Well, thank goodness it had trailer guards, on it, a bumper guard. And our kid got her foot caught. And she immediately started screaming. Well, the trailer landed across my stomach, and of course I glorified a little more now that I'm older, and I was trying to lift it off of my stomach. Well, it ended up that she basically had a minor bruise on her ankle, and I had a ruptured spleen and was in the hospital for a week. So, but it was not her fault. I was the one that reached up and did the Tarzan swing.
If she was a year and a half, it probably wasn't her fault.
Yes. And thank goodness she had a loud voice crying, because that brought Betty Hash and my mother out of to save us and take us to the hospital.
Exactly.
And I really got a really nice truck from my uncle, a little toy truck.
Oh, yeah.
Had all these little doors and tools on it. Man, it's fantastic. I never had anything like that in my life. I was thinking about doing that again.
You need to get injured again.
Toy.
Yeah. All right, Shelley, do you want to ask him the second question?
Oh, thanks. The second question, Dad, is there a particular saint that has been walking with you at this stage of your life?
I think I'm one of those people where I have multiple saints because I I cannot understand. I still right now talking to you two. I have no clue how things came out the way they did. How I could marry a woman at 19 and love her more, at 78 than I did at any time in my life. I cannot imagine how, coming from the neighborhood that I grew up in, that I went to the University of Houston and got my degree and was able to experience all of the things I experienced both working for other companies and corporations and then starting my own, getting a patent and doing all the things. And then having my son, who just graduated from Texas A&M and started to work, coming and say, Dad, I think you got one more shot left in you. I'm going like, no, son, you're crazy. You don't understand. Don't do it. It's too, it's painful. You won't want it. And then having, 18 years of that and ending up the way that it ended up. So if you ask me which saint, they must have all been right there holding my hand at different times.
That sounds pretty accurate to me.
Yeah. So it's been a blessed life. And like I say, you've heard the old expression, don't cry for me, Argentina. Well, that's kind of the way I feel. Don't cry for me because I've had a wonderful, wonderful life.
That sounds about right. Okay.
And I hope you two experience the same thing. When you get to be my age, I hope that you two look back and say, boy, there were a couple of rough storms. Those seas, I thought the seas were going to swallow me up. But, somehow the good Lord always gave me a way to get to those calm waters with beautiful little palm trees and the beautiful little tropical islands and all of that.
The glorious sunset. I love that.
Well, we've had a good example.
Yeah.
All right. Dad, thank you for joining us today and sharing the stories and working through all of our technical difficulties and thunderstorms. My dog barking. Yeah, all of the things for our listeners today.
Well, I was worried for a minute that the good Lord didn't want me to do this podcast because when my headset went out, I'm like, I've never had this happen before. So.
Usually that means good things are happening, right? When you get some
Got to be.
technical issues.
Yep. And this conversation...
We overcame.
We overcame. We worked through it. We didn't panic. We didn't throw up our hands and say, oh, Lord, why me? We just did what we had to do and got it done. I call it the Nike mode. Just do it.
That's true, you do.
There it is.
That is very common. Nike mode, yes.
Yep. All right. Well, this conversation has reminded us how much of who we are has been shaped by your love, your guidance, and your example, and our mothers throughout our lives. And we're grateful not only for everything you've done for our family, Dad, but for the man that you are and continue to be.
And as we celebrate Father's Day coming up, we know that each of our listeners has their own experience with fatherhood. Some are celebrating wonderful fathers who've been a source of strength and encouragement. Some are grateful for husbands who are loving and devoted fathers to their children. And others may be missing their fathers today or carrying wounds from relationships that weren't what they hoped they would be.
But listeners, wherever you find yourself this Father's Day, we want to take a moment to honor the vocation of fatherhood and the men who strive each day to love, protect, guide, and serve their families. Their presence matters more than they often realize, and their influence reaches far beyond what they may ever see.
So to all the fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, godfathers, spiritual fathers, and father figures, thank you. Your love, your sacrifices, and your faithfulness leave a lasting legacy.
And to Dad, before we close, from Lisa and I, thank you for being our father.
Well, thank you for being such wonderful daughters.
We love you, Dad.
God bless me twice, right?
That's right. Happy Father's Day. And thanks for spending this time with us. We're really, this went much better than we expected, I'm just going to say.
Well, you never know what you're going to get when you pick that chocolate out of the box.
That's right. We never know when we ask you an open-ended question where it's going to go. So, and we actually met our time a lot better than we thought. So,
Yep.
so
Y'all
that
wouldn't
worked.
let me talk. I could have talked 45 minutes on each one of those questions. Come on.
We know.
We know.
From experience, we know. All right. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see y'all next time.
All right. Bye-bye.